He was give thanks to Almighty Allah. We glorify His name. We ask for Allah's mercies and blessings upon the noble Prophet Muhammad, his household, and his companions. We ask Allah Subhanahu wa Taala to grant us beneficial knowledge, benefit us with what we learn. Ameen. Today, inshallah, we'll continue with our tafsir from Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 30, where Allah Subhanahu wa Taala says, وإذ قال ربك للملائكة إني جاعل في الأرض خليفة قالوا أتجعل فيها من يفسد فيها ويسفك الدماء ونحن نسبح بحمدك ونقدس لك قال إني أعلم ما لا تعلمون. Allah said, إذ قال ربك للملائكة, when your Lord, that is narrating to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when your Lord said, when your Lord said to the angels, al-malaika, inni, I, ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa, I am going to make on earth, or I am going to place on earth, khalifa, a successor or successors, people who will succeed one another, generation to generation, khalifa. Even though the word khalifa is singular, some scholars said he meant Adam because he said khalifa, one person. But other scholars said no, Allah meant the entire mankind that will take the baton from one another. So it was going to create a string, not just one person. It was going to start with one, and then it was going to expand. And that's why the angels afterwards asked Allah, especially for those scholars who were saying, "Oh, Allah was referring to Prophet Adam alone as the Khalifa, the successor." So they said, "Why then did the angels ask Allah, أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاءَ?" Those who will spill their blood. So if Allah was talking about Adam alone, why was the angels talking about those who will spill their blood? Were they referring also to Adam in that? So we will go with the scholars that say Khalifa means successors. That Allah was saying, I will create on earth successors, people who will succeed one another. So some would come, others will come after them. The ones that came first will go, and then the ones that came after those ones, who succeeded those ones, would also have other people coming after them, and then they will also pass away. And so you see on earth, when we are here, we have children. And then the parents, that generation would die off, and then the new generation would grow, and then they will also have children, and then they will also die off, and then the new generation. And that is how it has been since the beginning, when Allah created humans. And that's what Allah was saying to the angels. So Allah, the creator, first assembled the angels. One of the facts that we can gain from here is that angels were created before humans. That is a fact. So Allah gathered the angels and informed them of His intention to do something. It wasn't seeking their permission, but He was informing them. So even though He's the Lord of everything, He's the Lord over them, He's their Lord, their commander-in-chief and everything, their creator, still informed them. Because even after He creates these new beings, the angels will still be the ones that He will send to them. So one way or the other, the angels are directly or indirectly affected by His decision to create another being. Because again, who is He going to be sending to this being when He creates them? There's a lesson for us to learn here. That's why I'm expatiating on it. The lesson is, even though you have the authority, even though you have the power to make a decision, if that decision would affect people who are under you, you should, as a leader, be able to inform them about that decision before you make it. So, for example, as the head of a household, you are the head of the household. You don't need to ask anyone permission. But that does not mean you don't need to inform the people of that household about actions that you're about to take that might directly or indirectly be of effect to them. So Allah assembled the angels and informed them of his intention to create man. قالوا أتجعل فيها من يفسد فيها ويسفك الدماء. And then the angel said to him, do you intend to create, you mean you want to create on earth those who would cause mischief, who would cause fasad? Remember our definition of fasad. Fasad, mischief. It is translated as mischief, but to understand it properly, it is when you change the natural order of things. That is fasad. You spoil it. You have abused the natural order. So natural order, for example, is that a man would marry a woman. Doing otherwise is fasad. Natural order is that a man dresses in a certain kind of way and appears a certain kind of way, looks a certain kind of way. For a man to decide to look another way as against the natural order, thereby abusing the natural order, that is mischief, that is fasad. So changing the natural order of things and causing chaos in the natural order, that is fasad. Are you planning, do you mean to say that you're planning to create those who would cause mischief, who would abuse the natural order, who would disrupt the natural order of things? And they will spill blood on earth. And they will spill blood. When you already have us, we make praises and thanksgiving. What else do you need? And we exalt your name. We praise you, we thank you, we glorify you, and we exalt you. What else would you need? What would you need? So there's a way you will translate this that sounds like the angels are challenging Allah. There's a way you translate it, and in fact, we might have heard some scholars translate this verse or this part to say that the angels were envious of humans. The angels cannot be envious. It is not part of their creation. The angels cannot challenge Allah. It is not part of their creation because Allah has described them as لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون. They only do that which they are commanded to do. So it is in light of this information we have about the angels. They are created from light. They cannot disobey Allah. They cannot do anything outside of what Allah commands them to do. Having this understanding of them is how we will now translate what they are saying. Having that understanding of them and in that light is how we will take our translation of their words, their response to Allah here. So when you know that they are in front of Allah, and Allah has already described them, the angels, they only say they only do what they are commanded to do. The angels do not eat, they do not drink, they do nothing. And like they are also describing here, except worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And here is Allah telling them that I'm going to create on earth successors, people who will worship me. Because Allah said that وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْإِنسَ وَالْجِنَّ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I have not created man and jinn except that they worship me. So Allah is planning to create humans on earth for the sole purpose of worshiping him. But he already has the angels whose sole purpose is worshiping him. So the angels are saying, because, and also when the angels said that you're going to create on earth those who will cause fasad, who will cause mischief on earth, who will change the order of things. They didn't say this out of envy to humans. In fact, it is said that the knowledge of this was given to them by Allah. It was Allah that revealed to them that this Khalifa that I want to create on earth, they will be mischievous people. They will cause mischief on earth. They will cause facade on earth. They will spread facade on earth. They will spill their own blood out of injustice. It was Allah that made that known to them. Because, of course, there's no knowledge outside the knowledge of Allah. How would the angels know that the creation that Allah is informing them about, He has not created them yet? He's just informing them about it. How would they know that that creation will cause facade on earth? How would they know that that creation will spill their blood? It wasn't as if Allah has created them before and then they had done that thing. Then it was going to, this is the first time Allah was creating man. So how did the angels know that? And again, knowing as we do that there's no knowledge outside of Allah. There's no knowledge for the angels outside of what Allah makes known to them. We can certainly say that it was Allah that already revealed to them the nature of this human that He was about to create. And so when Allah told them that, listen, and this is an illustration, that listen, I'm going to create successors, people who will succeed one another on earth. And these people, they're not like you, right? You are created from light. You are created solely to worship Allah and do as commanded. No free will. You only worship. You only do praises. You only do adoration of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But these ones that I'm going to create, they would have free will. They will be mischievous and they will spill blood. They will be unjust to one another. They will maltreat one another and so on and so forth. And then the angels, out of curiosity, were just like, help us understand the wisdom. And you are the all-wise. You are the most wise. We know there's a wisdom behind your decision to create another being when you already have us. What you say you want to create them for, we're already doing it. So help us understand the wisdom behind it. And you're saying that they would even cause mischief. We don't do mischief. We don't spill blood. Why would you want to create this new being? Help us understand the wisdom behind it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responded to them, Inni a'lamu ma la ta'lamu. Don't worry. I know what you do not know. I know more than what I have told you. I know more about them and the nature that I'm going to create in them. That because all you're thinking, all you heard is, we are already worshiping you. Why do you want to create other people to worship you? I know the kind of worship that I want them to worship me that you are not doing. I know the kind of living that they are going to live that you are not living. I know the kind of things that I want from them that you do not have, that you do not possess. And so, to drive home that point of inni a'lamu ma la ta'lamun, that I know that which you do not know, the next verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then narrates to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا ثُمَّ أَعْرَضَهُمْ عَلَى الْمَلَائِكَةِ فَقَالَ أَنْبِئُونِي. Then Allah made known to Adam the names of everything, the names of everything that was already in existence and the things that would come to be. So some scholars said Prophet Adam was taught the names of every of his offspring. Every human being that will come to live, Prophet Adam was taught their names. Some said he was taught the names of everything. Asma'a al-asma. Everything that had a name was taught to Prophet Adam. Every single animal, every single stone, every single mountain, anything that was and that had a name, it was taught to Prophet Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. And then we turned it over to the angels. That is, we turned the question to the angels. Questions about the names of everything, the things that we already taught to Adam. So part of what Allah did here was to show the angels the uniqueness of humans. So I have given a human what I have not given you. Remember, there's no knowledge for the angels except that which Allah makes known to them. Again, that's how we know that they had no previous knowledge of what the humans that Allah was going to create, what they were going to be like, or except that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself revealed that to them. فَقَالَ أَنْبِئُونِ بِأَسْمَاءِ هَؤُلَاءِ. And Allah asked them, tell me the names of these things. إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. If you're truthful, if truly you know what you're talking about, if truly you know better than whatever I teach you, قالوا سبحانك لا علم لنا. They said, oh, glory be to your name. La ilma lana. There is no knowledge for us. And this is the angels verifying that they have no prior knowledge, no hidden knowledge, no knowledge outside illa ma allamtana, except for what you teach to us, except for what you make known to us. Innaka anta al-alim al-hakim. Verily, you are the all-knowing, the most wise. Qala ya Adam. Then Allah said to Prophet Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, Anbi'um bi asma'ihim. Tell them about the names of everything. By so doing, Allah placed Prophet Adam alayhi salatu wasalam above the angels, making him their teacher, making him teach them that which they do not know. By virtue of having more knowledge than them, the knowledge of the names of everything, Allah now said, tell them the names of everything that we have just taught you. Allah placed him in a position ahead of the angels, in front of them to teach them things that they are not aware about. And when Prophet Adam والسلام, was done teaching to them the names of everything as he had been taught, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then said to the angels, didn't I say to you that I know everything that is hidden in the heavens and the earth? And I know that which you make openly, and that's which you do not speak about. And that which they make open was their question of the people that Allah was going to create being people of fasad, people who are going to spread fasad on earth. And the one that they did not make known was the fact that they thought within themselves that they were better than these people, that the in terms of worship, that they could worship, that they do tasbih better than these people, that they do taqdis better than these people. That is, they do adoration of Allah better than the humans that Allah was going to create. They were thinking that within themselves, that they do worship better than the worship that these people that Allah was going to create would do for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is why they thought that when we're already doing all these things, why then do you have to create these humans? Now, it is said that human beings created from mud. Okay, so let's put this information. The angels are created from light. Human beings are created from mud. The jinns are created from smokeless fire. And the dawab, the animals, are created from water. So again, angels from light, jinns from smokeless fire, humans from mud, animals from water. The angels were created to have no free will. Only do as commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم. They do not disobey Allah in anything that He commands them. وَيَفْعَلُونَ مَا يُؤْمَرُونَ. And they only do that which they are commanded. That's the angels. Human beings were commanded. We choose to do or not to do. And that's why we have the laws of when it is wajib, when you're commanded to do something and it's compulsory and you fail to do it, then you will be punished. But if you do it, you'll be rewarded. For the angels, there's no concept of reward and punishment because there's never going to be a time where they disobey. So the same thing applies to the jinns. For the jinns, they also have free will. They were also created like human beings to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They also have commands to do good and shun evil deeds. And they have the free will to choose to obey or to disobey. And when they obey, they are rewarded. And when they disobey, they are punished. But human beings have the physical form that the jinns do not have. and the jinns wish to have. They do not have a physical form, again, because of their creation from fire. Human beings have the physical form because of our creation from something that is solid. And then you have the animals created from water. Now, the animals have no free will and they have no commands. There's no free will for them. There's no commandment for them. So no commandment for animals to be nice. When you see an animal, see another animal and attack it, there's no commandment to say, if you attack another animal, there's no concept of justice or injustice. There's not going to be any judgment on those animals. But for humans and jinns, there's going to be judgment. There's a concept of right and wrong, and there's going to be judgment. There's going to be account for how you use the free will that you're given. And then for the angels, there's no account because there's no sin, right? However, in terms of levels of worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, human beings engage in other things besides worship Allah, even though the sole purpose of their creation, as Allah stated clearly, is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So human beings engage in other things that go beyond worship, that are less than what they are created for. Whenever a human goes below the worship of Allah, fails to follow the guideline or to follow the commands of Allah, it will be in the realm of animals. Yeah, animals have no commands. There's no command for animals to do good. They can do anything. So whenever a human being is doing anything that he likes, without allowing himself to be guided by the legislation of Allah, the Creator, there's no legislation for animals. So when a human decides to live a life without being guided by the legislation of the Creator, he is acting like an animal. But for the angels, they live by the legislation of Allah. They don't do anything outside the legislation of Allah. They only do what Allah commands them to do. Worship Allah. They don't even spend time to drink water or to drop cup. They only worship Allah. So when a human being follows the legislation, stays within the framework of the legislation of Allah, does not disobey Allah in anything, and does everything that is commanded by Allah, is acting like angels. So one can decide every time we sin by commit an act of disobedience, which is what we call sin, anytime we commit such intentionally, with full disregard, conscious disregard to the rules and commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are like animals. And every time we consciously obey Allah, worship Allah, don't do the right things, follow the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in worshiping Him, and consciously do not commit acts of facade or acts of sin, we are in the realm of angels. It is better, and it is clear which realm it's or which group it's better to be closer to. When you're closer to the angels, things don't happen to you. Things don't just happen to you. An animal can be crossing the street and a car can just ram it off the road. That's an animal. If one is walking in the light alongside angels, such things will not happen to such a person. When one starts to behave like an animal, that is, in terms of disobeying Allah and disregarding rules, see if it doesn't exist for them, such things, and I'm not saying the person will walk on the road and a car will ram the person. It just means that the whole world would react to that person like an animal. When a person performs deeds, obeys Allah, worships Allah, stays within the framework of the legislation of Allah consciously, and stays clear of sin or disobeying Allah like the angels, then the person is working with the angels, and the whole world will treat that person as if the person is like an angel. That's where you have the wali. That's where you have the anbiya. That's where you have the salihun. That's where you have the siddiqun. So that's where you have the ibadullah, those levels of servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa ibadur rahman, alladhina yamshuna ala al-ardi awnan, وَإِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا. And then you have وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ إِنَّ أَوْلِيَاءَ اللَّهِ لَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. إِنَّ أَوْلِيَاءَ اللَّهِ, the wali, the awliya, لَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ, they have nothing to fear. So the awliya, they are at that level. The people who worship Allah subhanahu in open and in hiding, where people see them and where people don't see them. They worship Allah, they do not disobey Allah in anything. They consciously worship Allah. They walk with the angels and see how Allah described it. La khawfun alayhim. Nothing can scare them. Nothing bad can happen to them. Wala umyaz, and they will never grieve. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for us to perform actions that puts us always in locksteps with the angels and not actions that put us in lockstep with the animals. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of our acts of ibadah. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. Nash'adu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu. I will stop here for today and continue on Saturday, inshallah. Do we have any questions?